Do you fish? No. You know, people who don't fish think that fishing is lazy or boring, but it is the complete opposite. There are 100 little decisions to be made, variables to be considered, and you're never quite sure what made the difference. Did I cast too high, too far to the left? Did I reel it in too slow or too fast? Is the lure too shiny or too dull? Do I stay here or should I go over there? And you know it's not luck, but you do not know by how much. Because I am never disappointed out here, because I don't expect anything, because anything is possible. I can be hopeful out here, even in failure. Because I know if I just go out there around that tree, it might be different. Something might be different. Something I do might make a difference.
Oh. Just gonna send it.
Fluorocarbon I will use, but I have an extremely sensitive rod.
Hold up.
Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
That's what she said.
Yeah.
On my property, you didn't win in my yard.
Wait.
All of you.
Daddy, chill.
What the hell is even that?
You're listening to Fishing the DMV with your hosts, Thomas Ahrens and Jared Mounts. Fishing the DMV is brought to you by Jake's Bait and Tackle, located in Winchester, Virginia.
If that doesn't get you jacked up, I don't know what will.
Good evening, everyone. How's everyone doing tonight? We are almost through the July summer days, getting into the doldrum of August until we get back into September. And it's really weird right now. It feels like there's a lull in the fishing community. We got one big tournament happening on the New River, I think, this week for the Heuple OBS series, whatever it is. I'm terrible with acronyms, by the way. It's a miracle I actually have a day job because I suck with acronyms. But I have a great show for you tonight. It's not just going to be me rambling to the camera by myself like an idiot, but for some reason that episode, by the way, is like the second best episode I've launched in the last month. I don't know why you guys like that. That's really an indictment on y'all. But I have the man, the myth right here. I'm just gonna bring him into the queue. This guy has been absolutely tearing it up at Lake Anna. I think this is your first full year guiding, right, on Lake Anna, Tyler, correct?
Yeah, so it just started in the spring and then got real official towards the end of spring. So yeah, we kind of really just got things kicked off, and it's jumped off and been a hot start so far.
How did you come up with your guide name? I don't think I've ever asked you that question.
Yeah, so it's a play on words for my last name. So my last name is Heuple, and so Heuple Guide Service. Honestly, I don't know. I was just like coming up with random names, and I didn't want to do like Lake Anna fishing guide, even though like something like that does well for searching. So I was like, I'm gonna try to make it a little bit personable and have my last name play a key into the actual company's name.
That's so cool. I actually had a blast. One thing that brought you up into conversation last week is I interviewed a New River guide, Ethan Stone.
Okay.
And he brought you up in conversation, and I'm blown away at how much of a small world this is about like when you get in this and you actually somehow get into the business side of things where you're either doing a YouTube channel, a guide service, and you realize like these are the same people that you've probably known for 10, 15, 20 years.
Yeah. I fished at college with him and knew him in college.
Did you ever fish the New River or the Claytor Lake or places like that down there?
Yeah, no, I did. I fished the New River. So the New River for me was like, I need to catch a muskie while I'm at Tech. So I wasn't even really there for smallmouth. Like I would go bank, and I actually had a little John boat when I first got to college before the Ranger. And I would just like throw that thing in the New River and try to catch muskie. And I couldn't tell you how many times I had one hooked or had a follow, but never caught one. And then I'd bring a friend there. Like a friend would come to town that either like went to another school or was like just coming complete out of town, and then they would catch a muskie. And so like it would be like I'd be out there for like hours and days and days and days, and then they would just come for a single day and then catch a muskie, and I'm like, you don't even realize what you just did. Like
that's so freaking cool, dude. And that's so cool how that transitioned to what you're doing now up at Lake Anna. How has it been fishing wise? I think the last time we had you on was like June 1st or like late May. So a lot has changed since then, correct?
Yeah, so the last time we had one was right before the big TPF state championship out there, and yeah, a lot has changed as far as fishing. My knowledge of the lake has been insane over the past couple months. Like I'm probably more dialed there than I ever will be, and I don't know how much more dialed I can get from this, other than if I start forcing myself to go way up the splits, which I don't do. There's always something to learn. Like I'm very open-minded. Like when I'm fun fishing, like I am forcing myself to go places that I never would have thought. But I don't know. That lake is full of fish. Like it's crazy how many fish are in there. It really is. And like people go there, and I understand. And I have this conversation with almost everyone I go out with is, why is this place so hard? And I mean, there's a few things, but you really only need to know a handful of things on that lake to start catching fish consistently. It's really not complicated. Once you know these things, it's just figuring these things out takes a lot of time. And that's how the locals separate themselves there. it is a hard lake to come in. I mean, I could see, very, very skilled anglers could come there and figure things out and catch fish, but it is a hard place to just come. And, going out with any guy, not just me, on that lake definitely has a value because it's, I don't know, like there's other lakes and other rivers where I feel like you can just go fishing and you'll catch something. On this lake, like, man, there's a lot of dead water, but there's a lot of fish. It actually fishes really, really big for a small lake. Like there are fish everywhere.
Then let's let's retroactively engineer that statement. Why is it people come? And I'm assuming it's not just one person that comes and says like, "Wow, why is this lake so hard?"
Yeah, it's everywhere pretty much.
People think that. Why do people have that thought process?
Yeah, so a lot of people have that thought process in my mind, and what I've realized is what looks good to the eye there isn't necessarily that great. If you were to just go there and look at a bank, like say like more beginner fishing, if you show up to a lake, a lot of what you do is you're using your eyes to look for bank cues and things that would translate like, oh, here's this bluff wall or something like this, or like here's this point and stuff. But it's really not like that. You have to get really good at reading a map and getting comfortable reading a map. Like Navionics, right? I use Navionics for pretty much everything. I use variants of other maps because some things are slightly different. But really, you just have to get good at reading a map because what looks good to the eye out there is actually not some of the best stuff. So, and if you don't have live scope, if you don't have the luxury of having live scope, you can still do this and catch fish this way just by getting good at reading a map and knowing a few like small things. And you can find fish pretty quickly. I mean, once you figure it out a little bit and dial it in, again, I'm taking this a little for granted because I'm out there probably more than anybody. Me and the guys that guide for striper are probably the guys that are out there the most. I'm all bass, and then all the striper guys, but it's a few things, and to me, I might make it seem like it seems simple, but it's really not. And I think a lot of it is what's looks good to the eye is actually quite deceiving out there, and I think a lot of that is due to pressure.
I think it has to do with pressure, 100%. I mean, again, whether a lake fish is big or small or not, when the lake is not 10,000 acres, it's going to get beat up.
Yeah.
And we don't have a lot of lakes, in this area. And so that even compounds it. And then we throw in summer, which it is now, and you have the pleasure boating. And that's something I also really want to make sure we have a segment on, is how, we'll get there. I'll save that topic for later. But going from when I left off, where you were having that tournament, that big state tournament that you were going to be, that you were participating in, to the 4th of July weekend, how do we break up the summer months on Lake Anna? Is summer one just big area of time, or do the fish have different parts of it, like the pre-spawn, the spawn, and the post-spawn?
Yeah, so it does vary a little bit, but the one thing, and this is a piece of information I literally tell everybody, is once the fish get into their summer spots, they don't vary much unless you do have groups of fish that do chase bait and herring all around the lake. Like, they're just following bait, main lake fish, main river channel fish. That is a thing. So there is spots that you can just pull up to randomly, with a few things that you have to keep in mind. Like there's reasons why they pull up to those spots. But so there is fish everywhere that chase that. But yeah, to break it down into like stages, when you start getting into like that post spawn, so we're talking late May, early June. You have a lot of fish scattered, and you actually don't have all your big fish off on that offshore stuff. You get a lot of your like typical post spawn, like big ones hanging off on brush piles, offshore brush piles. Usually it's away from the bank. In the early summer, you still got some fry garters on some deep docks. You even in the early, like this is late spring, and it does happen. I saw at like the end of May, you will have main lake spawners. The main lake spawners are the last ones in the lake typically to spawn. And when I mean main lake, I mean literally like main lake, like as main lake as you can think. You'll get a group of bass that are main lake oriented bass that will spawn very late into May. It's not a lot of fish, but it's a handful every year. And then as you kind of progress to that, you get into kind of this thing where the groups, and you start getting schools, and the schools start out at about 3 to 5 fish. You start seeing groups of 3 to 5. and they're just roaming offshore stuff, chasing bait like constantly. Like if you're looking at live scope, you're just seeing tally marks, like just roaming, just chasing bait. And these are off on offshore flats, offshore points, anything that drags out but stays deep. Like between like the hot spot on this time of year in June is like 8 foot to like 15. You actually don't get too much activity deeper than that. You do. There are big fish like deeper than that. But once you get into like that June and you get into like the mid June and late June, it's a lot of schools, a lot of schooling activity, roaming offshore flats, elongated points that pull off near a creek channel bend, or flats that are just, that go on forever. And, so that's kind of that. And then I think what we're kind of getting into now is like more of the dog days stuff, which you have that schooling activity, but the feeding windows are tight. And I mean like really tight. Like you have like 20 minutes where they just turn on and then they shut off, and you've got to do some tricky stuff to get them to bite. But the feeding windows can be like awesome. Like it's fun. Like, I mean, you catch them and like you can almost go through like 1 or 2 feeding windows and feel like, you had a really successful day. I mean, you can catch like 10 fish in, 20 minutes kind of thing. So they just turn on. It reminds me of being on like a tidal river when like the tide just gets right and it just turns on. And that's kind of like the late summer thing on Anna. You do get groups of big fish that pull off really deep. And when I say like really deep on Anna, that's like 30 foot. And even the fish really aren't in the bottom there. They're suspending if they're that deep. That's really deep for Anna. A majority of your population in the summer is like in that 8 foot to 20 foot range. Which is another thing too. A lot of people are really uncomfortable like in 20 foot, but like that's one of the things I try to get people more comfortable with, because almost every time I'm out on a trip, like the shallowest we are is 10 foot, like always. And I like explain to them, like, look at like the front of my boat to the end of my boat. Like that's how deep you are. It's not that deep. Like you can walk that in a few steps. I think that kind of makes people realize like, okay, it's really not that deep. And that's where you get a majority of your population, probably throughout the whole summer in July and August. They don't really have any reason to go deeper. The bait's not going deeper. The bait actually is in some cases actually really shallow, especially you get the herring on a sunny day. I mean, they're still in like 6 foot of water. But you got to find kind of something that tapers from like 6 foot that goes deeper into like to a flat that then is near a main river channel. Mm-hmm. So, and that, again, that's just like mapping. And then obviously, you can use side scan and different things to find groups and bait, and different things like that. And then if you have live scope, then, it's pretty quick to figure out, bait and stuff, just quick pan. And then you'll see, you will see schools a lot this time of year, and that's going to be, typical throughout the rest of summer.
It's interesting with what you said about the depth, because one question I know we're going to get, and guys, if you have any questions for Tyler, just type it out in the comment section. We'll make sure they get answered. A thermocline, is a thermocline something that ends up happening on this body of water?
It does in spots, but it's actually not. If it's not very obvious, it's really weird here. I don't know exactly what it is. I have seen it in years past, like a definitive one, and maybe we'll get like one as we get into like that peak water temperature where it just doesn't get higher, and we will see one. But I have not seen a definitive thermocline in spots where you think you would. And I don't know if that has something to do with the discharges from the dikes messing something up. But yeah, there is a thermocline, and in some creeks you can see a definitive thermocline, and you won't see fish, And as it gets hotter, the thermocline is going to rise. It doesn't get deeper. So the oxygen can only get so deep. And the fish it's rare ever when you see a thermocline where you see a fish below that. It's just not sustainable. So actually, like, what can happen is the hotter the water gets, the shallower you can actually bring fish in the summer. Eventually, there's a time where the oxygen just can't be supported if it's not super clear. The clearer it is, the deeper the thermocline is going to be. And Anna is a pretty clear fishery, but it's actually not that clear. Like, we're not talking like New York clear. Yeah. Like that sort of thing. Like the thermocline in there and the fish, they get very, very deep. On Anna, you're not going to see, if someone caught a bass in like 40 foot, like I'd be really, really, really surprised. I'm not saying it's not possible, but it would be surprising unless it was the spending, in 40 foot. I've caught some on the bottom in like 28 on a way that I have been able to find some bigger fish in the summer. But yeah, I don't think you're going to see fish much deeper than 25 foot.
That's interesting. And then we got Travis. I hated Lake Anna for 5 years. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me see if I can speak American, for God's sakes. I hated Lake Anna 5 years ago, and now I'm in love with it. Big time fan of fishing up the splits. Had about 15 in the boat by 9:30 a.m. Saturday until the mercury started giving me trouble. Dude, I hope you get your motor fixed. It is an interesting lake, and I've even heard some people like higher ups in YouTube and stuff say like they call it like the Dead Sea. And I really wonder if it's because people are just not used to fishing that style. And I saw this a lot when I tried to cover all the BFLs from the Shenandoah and the Piedmont division. And you had crossover of a lot of Carolina guys who would come up and fish Smith and Kerr, and they had no problem with those lakes.
Yeah.
Well, if you're up in Lake Anna, you're pretty much a river rat everywhere else, I would assume, unless all you do is Lake Anna, because it's the James, it's the Potomac, and if that's all you fished and you went to Lake Anna, holy shit, it's finessey stuff. It's not the same at all in that sense.
Yeah, it really is, like, again, unless you go up the splits, like, and there's good fish up the splits. Like I mean, I just am not as comfortable up there. I go up there from time to time. I was up there this week, actually, one of the days, and actually caught like some decent fish and stuff. So I know there's fish up there. But there's no doubt in my mind the midsection of the lake has the highest population of fish. It just kind of is what it is. Every Sunday, literally throughout the year at Fishtails, fish are getting recycled through there at the Sunday Series tournament. Every single big tournament in Sturgeon Creek throughout, the winter, the spring, and the summer and the fall are getting released right there in Sturgeon. And those are like pretty much like ideal locators of midsection of the lake, is like Sturgeon Creek and then Fishtails. So I just know that the highest density of bass from what I've seen is in that midsection. And then the dam gets, but it's a very offshore lake. It really is. It really does favor offshore fishing. And that's why I think a lot of people do come there, and when they fish the bank, can have trouble. Don't get me wrong, you can skip docks and catch fish year round. You can go up to the splits and fish shallow and fish grass and stuff and catch fish year round for sure. But as far as just getting number of bites and then, quality and stuff, you just got to you don't even have to be offshore. I always tell people that have fished the lake too, like, hey, if you have a spot that is good and it's fish, like, just like pull off that spot like 30 yards next time you're there. And just like, and some, if they have live, I'm like, pull off like 30 yards, see what you're missing. You're probably sitting on top of the fish. And a lot of people message me and be like, yeah, we did that. And like, we found like a brush pile. And I'm like, yeah, there you go. Like, you guys were catching fish that were in the brush pile going up shallow. And then now when you back off and you see that brush pile and that spot that you always knew is good, now you're actually at the spot within the spot. Instead, you were sitting on it and catching roaming fish that were looking for a meal up shallow on the brush.
It's one of the most duh observations, but I think in fishing, people do not spend the time to actually graph and hunt. And I remember in college, my brother and I, you would throw in our AirPods and just listen to a podcast, and you're just graphing and graphing and graphing. But then when I got out of that, and I really realized a lot of people, they just show up and start hitting docks. They don't put that extra time in there. And I get it to an extent. I mean, you have a terrible marriage, you have 2 kids, and you got 6 hours to be on the lake. You don't want to be graphing. But I feel like it would help you so much if you have the ability to just leave the rods at home and just graph a little bit first to really understand the area you're fishing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. Spending some time just graphing and a lot of what I do is when I'm out there by myself is just looking. Like, if I have like 4 trips in a row and they're like guide trips, like I have to find like a lot of fish, because I cannot sustain 4 guide trips 4 days in a row on the same groups of fish without just beating it to death. Don't get me wrong, there's spots on the lake that can sustain 4 days of really just getting beat, but every single day, like, by the 3rd day, they're harder to catch. So like when I'm out there just finding fish for clients, like a lot of it is I'm literally either using live scope or side scan or down scan or whatever, and trying to find new groups of fish. Live scope makes it easier, honestly, because I can just take similarities from other spots, go stop my boat, put live scope down, pan around, and then go to the next spot.
It's just for the new members that we have watching. We're almost up to 20 guys. Please hit that like button. It really helps us out in the algorithm. What is your electronics boat? What is the electronic boat setup that you have?
Yeah, so honestly, it's nothing like super fancy. I have like a Helix 7 on my dash. It's just my mapping right there. Like it's not even like, a huge monitor TV screen, all that stuff's up on the front of my boat. And that's literally just my Navionics mapping. And then I have like a small little thing that came when I bought the boat that I am going to get a bigger graph on actually this fall. But and that was literally just for being on the river and having like a constant depth while I could look at my map. So I don't even use that. I literally use Helix 7 on the front of my boat. I have the 10-inch Garmin with the LVS 34, and then I have a smaller Lowrance unit too that I pull up for mapping. And so I have Helix, Lowrance, and Garmin, and none of the units talk to each other. Like I don't have the most.
Good Lord.
I don't have the most efficient process of this doing it. So everyone is will get on their boat, and I'll get on other people's boats, and they'll have I don't even know what have you, the craziest thing. Like they've got 66 inches of screens on a boat. When I get in their boat to dial in their stuff, and then they'll see my boat, and they're like, oh, you have a 7-inch screen, but none of that shit matters. If you don't need crazy stuff to catch fish, it's about the time on the water. The bigger your screen is, you're not catching more fish. You're just not. I don't that's the one thing that people shouldn't be discouraged of, is spending all this money on all that stuff to catch fish, because it doesn't matter. My 7-inch Helix with my mapping, if it was 10 inches, wouldn't make a difference. If my live scope screen was 2 inches bigger, wouldn't make a difference. It's not about that stuff.
I 100% agree. And the only reason, guys, in my opinion, you get the bigger screen. So example is I run a 15 for my 360. You can blow it up, but the fact is the size of the screen is just so you can see it a little bit easier. And I think you're right. If you're going from a 9 to a 10, no. Now, if you have the ability to go up to a 15 or something like that, I think it'll make it pop a little bit more. But the problem is the cost. So if it's just an inch, it's really almost not worth it just to spend extra for an inch extra of screen space.
Yeah, and for one thing, if people are going to buy live scope, this is my one caveat with that. Buy yourself at least a 10-inch screen.
Yes.
I've been on people's boats with a 9, I think even a 8 or something, and the 10 inch is perfect. Perfect. I know that you can get the huge ones, and it does help. The bigger the screen is, the more you can differentiate the size of the fish. It gives you more real estate, so your reading is more accurate. You can tell a small marking from a bigger marking better, the less time you have on it. But a 10-inch screen is fine. So that's another thing. But a mapping screen, again, if you're traveling and doing a bunch of tournaments, which eventually I probably will, and my stuff will be, I understand having better mapping, better units, but I fish locally, and I know that like the back of my hand, where I don't sometimes I get on my boat for guide trips, and I don't even turn on my graphs on the front. It's just, I don't need to. That's just gotta spend so much time out there. If I go somewhere else, I'd be lost as hell. But yeah, I don't get too caught up in screen size, is what I'm saying.
No, I 100% agree with that. I mean, because I've had people say what screen size should I get, and I think I said the same thing as you: a 10-inch for Panoptix forward-facing sonar, and then it's not even, if you're going to upgrade, don't upgrade to 12. Save your money for a couple of years, and then get a 15 or something really big. Because then I've been on a boat with a guy that I think he had I think it was a 16-inch Garmin or whatever. It's oh my god, that thing.
Yeah.
The separation though, it's that's why those people are buying it. I get it when it's that big, but the 10 to 12. I don't think there's much of a difference. There really is not.
Yeah, no, there's not. A 10 and 12 is no difference, unless what you said. I have seen one on the Garmin's biggest unit, and then I can see, okay, this does give you a little bit of an advantage as far as being able to differentiate the size of fish and everything, and seeing little things that you couldn't see on a screen that's a little crunched together.
Right now, we are in the absolute thick of boating pressure, and I'm not talking about fishing, but the jet skiers, the people that have a $6,000 home that live in DC and go there once, for a week and that's it.
Mhm.
How do you factor that into a fishing day? Are there patterns that you can run because of the pressure?
Yeah, there's just different things. So this time of year, like especially within the past 2 weeks, it's been so prevalent that the feeding windows are so tight. So like the timing and stuff is weird. So like I've had days where I've been out by myself until like 2 o'clock and caught like the biggest fish because I just hit a feeding window at 2 o'clock. So like yes, the early morning bite is more consistent. You're gonna catch more numbers and that sort of thing. So like especially with the boat traffic, yeah, like get out there like right when the sun comes up. And if you like try to get off by like 11 or else you're gonna be, bouncing around. Sometimes I have to stay out longer when I'm doing things by myself or scouting, just because I need to keep finding fish and enough fish where I feel comfortable, that I'm not just taking people out on back-to-back guide trips and I have no idea what I'm doing. As much as things stay the same there, I always want to try to find, new things. But yeah, throughout the day, I mean, the window, it's like, it really is tidal right now. Like that's how it feels. Like it's just random windows. There's really not much that you can like, I've tried looking at little things to be like, okay, this is why a window is about to happen, but it just seems so random. I don't know what it is. It just seems like they just turn on. And you can trigger that a little bit with a big topwater bait. Like you can trigger that feeding window if they're like about ready. You can tell they're schooling and ready to eat. You can tell they're like hunting for bait. You can get that to trigger by throwing like a big topwater over them. But yeah, other than that, I mean, it is so random. You just have to be around fish and honestly grind it out. Like if you're gonna run a pattern where you're bouncing around a lot, you need to be hitting like very, very high percentage areas, like whether it's, like brush piles, deep brush piles and bounce around. But your best bet to catch fish is to find a population, sit on it, and wait for that window. I know it can be a little discouraging or boring, but there's things you can do to get them to bite. And then also another thing this time of year is the fishing is like fantastic before a storm comes. Like great, like really, really, really good. You get like really elongated feeding windows, like with that pre-front stuff, or in between fronts as well. So you'll get, some of the best fishing. Like if I look at my app and I don't have a guide trip that day and it looks like my weather app and it looks like it's going to storm, like I'm going to the lake and like, yeah, it's a little, can be a little shady, like be careful, but you're going to get some of the best summer fishing on that lake, like when a big thunderstorm's coming in the afternoon.
Interesting. That's really interesting. How do the docks play right now? Is it just purely because we've been talking the whole time about the offshore bite? Is there anything up on the bank, or is it pretty much avoid at all cost?
It's pretty hard. It really is hard to get bit on the bank right now. Like I wish I could. Like I know if you go up the splits and you fish some grass, like I was fishing some grass up there and caught some on top water, and then even caught some on a what is that thing called? It's like a stealth blade jackhammer. It's like the clear blade jackhammer. Yeah, I like that one on Anna a lot actually. It just looks a little different. They seem to bite that there throughout the lake. I caught some on that, and it was shallow. I was fishing like 5 foot in some grass it was offshore still, but it was like 5 foot. I don't know. Like I wish I could be more helpful for this time of year for the bank. I'm just really like not, and I don't want to tell people false stuff and then go do it. Like even that grass and stuff, like it looked like I was in the middle of the lake, kind of thing. But the docks do play. Like if I was looking for a dock right now, it's going to be an isolated dock near deep water on the main lake. If I see like a row of like 30 docks or something, like I'm going the opposite way. Like I want to find like one dock that is sitting on a point near deep water, ideally near a channel, or near some other type of offshore structure, like a flat that runs out. Like if you put your map shading or something to like 15, I always progress mine up. Like I have, use different colors. And then this time of year, actually what I like to do is just make it all one color and go to like 30 foot. And then you can get a really good idea of like flats and stuff that run out on the lake. And they're all over the place. I mean, they're literally all over and all of them have fish. And all you got to do is put your map shading to something like that, see if there's like a dock that sits like right near, so almost like a transition bank where you've got like a channel that comes up and then it meets a flat right here, and there's like a dock right there, and there's like a few, and then that dock is like on the flat, and then right on the outside of it is a channel. There's a few like that throughout the lake that you can find, and those docks are good. But the more docks I see, the further I run away. If I want to fish a dock, I want it to be like one dock, or I want it to be like a boathouse dock, because those have resident fish literally year round. The bait on big boathouse docks on Anna, what you get in the morning is they're on the outside of it, and then as the sun comes up, they move to the inside. Bass just follow them, chase them out in the morning, chase them out. There's like a few boathouses too. Everyone who's been to Lake Anna has probably seen a couple going across some bridges, and they all have fish. You just got to kind of figure out how to catch them, because it can be a little tricky, but they're there.
You piqued my interest with something, and it was on I think it was a story. I don't think it was a post of yours. We got SAV in Lake Anna, boys.
Oh yeah, it's everywhere right now.
That's insane. And we're not talking just about the shore grass. We actually have grass in the lake, which is that's freaking awesome, as that lake kind of adapts to that.
Yeah, it's everywhere. Like if you head out towards the dam area right now on like any sort of main lake, like I mean literally main lake, like you're like basically in the boat lane of, like if you were there at 1 o'clock, you'd probably get hit. If you find some sort of like high contour out there, you just drag up grass all day.
How do you feel about that when it comes to like angling grass, I guess specifically? Because I saw some of your posts and everything, and I feel like you have mixed emotions about fishing vegetation.
Oh, what do you mean? Like as far as like having people like chemicals and getting
Oh,
rid of
no.
it
I
and
just
that
meant
stuff?
like if you had to pick versus fishing ledges and grass, I guess.
Oh, yeah. Probably ledges. I don't mind fishing grass. Like a lot of my good like spots out there have some sort of grass tied into it.
Oh, okay.
It might just not be like the main feature or main reason why they're there. Yeah, I'm definitely not like, I don't claim to be like a shallow water grass expert, but when I get off into that offshore stuff, like when there's grass in 10 foot and stuff, like that's like my comfort zone. Like I like that deeper grass and stuff.
That's really cool to hear that, because it sounds a lot like I fished a kayak tournament a month ago, and they had that offshore grass with those breaks. Are you dealing with clumps, or are you dealing with just defined break lines in the vegetation?
So you're starting to see some areas on certain spots where there is actually like almost a defined line. I don't even know exactly what some of this grass is. Some of it in contrary is like hydrilla and milfoil. But the stuff on main lake, like I don't know what the heck it is. I've heard people say it's like shrimp grass or something, because it doesn't grow super tall. But you see it like on live scope, like it's up, like, you know, like it's at least like that to some places in like a foot and stuff.
Interesting.
I don't know what kind of grass it is. I know it's not hydrilla. I don't think it's milfoil, because I know what milfoil looks like. I don't know what it is, but it's everywhere right now on the main lake side near the dam.
Andrew, welcome to the party. Yes, that's what we were talking about. Wait, there is grass offshore in Anna? Yes, there is. There's grass back in Odenkirk. Even when I had him on the show last year, Odenkirk, if you're listening, still waiting for you to give me some time to come back on the show this summer. He wants to keep a little SAV in the lake. He doesn't want to go zero policy. Unlike Kerr, I just recorded last week an episode with the Army Corps of Engineers, and they say they have a total annihilation policy on Kerr. They do not want to ever see grass in that lake again. So it's really nice to see Lake Anna is like, we want to have at least some and not go completely bare bones.
Yeah, no, like it's like everywhere right now. Like it's pretty crazy where it is. Like some of the spots you'll go, you won't suspect it to be there, and it's there. My best spot, and like if I had to pick like one spot where I was like, I just need to go get like some decent bites. The grass came in really early, and it was a mixture of hydrilla and milfoil. And again, if I'm getting the grass name wrong, I could be like, again, like I know what hydrilla looks like just from being on the Potomac. I know what milfoil looks like. It could be something else mixed in with it. But I mean, this grass was like healthy in like April. And it was like one of my best spots. And it was like out, like I was like 50 to 75 yards off the bank. And that's where I caught, a lot of my bigger fish in the month of like late April and early May.
Was it, you said it was stringy?
Yeah, it was stringy. This was like actually stocky grass. Like it was like healthy, vibrant green and came up off the bottom. It was not very close to the bottom.
Yeah, send me a picture after the live stream. I kind of try to idea it because I know like I had a guy send me some pictures about Smith, and it looks like there's some kind of stringy grass in there now too. And I really want to identify because it doesn't look like hydrilla either. That's interesting though. Now, do the fish seem to actually want to hover around it? Because I know there's some vegetation where they kind of shy away from it.
Oh yeah, they're definitely in this vegetation, like hands down. Especially the one I'm talking about in Contrary, and I'm pretty sure that like whatever grass that was it was milfoil or hydrilla. It was one of the two. I'm not gonna I don't know. I'd have to go back and look at a picture. I'm pretty sure I actually identified it one time. But yeah, they were in that like in the clumps. Like you would see them literally on like when the water was super clear and it was high sun and it was like April. Like you would see them just like hovering like on the patches in like 2 foot of water. And then on like live scope, you would like find a patch and like see like a fish kind of like just going around that section, that clump of grass. So there it was more clumpy. There wasn't like a defined edge, but there'd be like a spot within a spot like 50 yards off the bank, and it would be like just almost like an offshore hump of grass. And that was like it would be loaded with fish.
That's crazy. Oh, dude, we got some questions here. Let's see. Okay, we have boss. I apologize for butchering your name, but here we go. Tedrick Los just booked a trip with you, so fantastic. You just got
awesome.
We have another one here. Do you prefer fishing, Sarah? Do you prefer fishing in the morning or afternoon/evening time at Anna during the summer? Any major differences in fish behavior during those times?
Okay. I was laughing because I know this person. I guess that kind of goes back as like the morning bite is good. You won't have to worry about, boat traffic and all that. And then another thing for me personally, if you're like within driving distance of the lake, if I see like fronts coming in the afternoon, like I might only get the fish with like 3 hours before I get struck by lightning, but you can have like the best 3-hour trip, the best fishing you'll have the entire summer. It can just turn on in that 3 hours before the trip.
Really?
Yeah. No, like not kidding. Like really, like it gets like nuts out there. Like it can be like a every cast kind of deal if you get on the right spot, like 2 hours before a storm.
Yeah, that's freaking cool. And we got one more question, then we'll kind of switch the bait segment and see what Tyler has for us. We got Brandon Solis. Are there snakeheads in Anna?
Oh yeah, yes, there is. They're even working their way down towards the dam now.
So by saying they're snakeheads, is it like something that you can actually pattern like on the Potomac or Rappahannock, or is it like they're not in there thick yet?
I don't think they're in there like that yet, unless you're way up the splits. I think you probably could. Like you could probably like throw like a frog or something and get them to like blow up on a frog, like way up the splits and stuff. But like in like the mid lake section and down towards Thurman Island, I've seen some like shallow, but it's just like a one-off snakehead here or there.
Interesting. So that might be something you'd be guiding for here in 5 years.
Yeah, if it gets good. I mean, people I didn't realize how like crazy the snakehead community was. Like people like really love it.
Yeah.
Like I don't mind. I'll take them, go catch snakehead.
It is a cult following. It's almost like musky. It's insane how big they are into it. So I'll keep an eye on the chat. And then if you want to switch, if you have to go grab some stuff, we can kind of talk about baits that you like to throw this time of year.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so I can talk about a few, but I've only got 2 here because it's really all you need. And then I can get into some of more of the Vanessa stuff. So this this little swim bait right here. So this is just a suicide shad, and it's just a little bait, little swim bait. This is like a 3.5, I believe, suicide shad. That's just like a 1/8, 3/16, 1/4 head is what I go to. This little right here, like I don't know what Megabass calls it, little spin head on it. I haven't seen like a difference in like the amount of bites I get if I have this on or if I don't. I just put it on sometimes, like to just get some water disturbance or something, especially if they're not in a feeding window, just anything little to try to get them fired up. But the key to this is any day on Anna, they're going to be keyed in on smaller bait or bigger bait. And so I literally have a bait like this size on the swim bait in the summer. And then I throw like the 5-inch version of this just on a slightly bigger head. And you basically, like, again, with live skip, if you find a school, you make a cast, see how they react to that one. If you catch one, good. Probably keying in on the one you're throwing. If they're not keying on smaller, throw the bigger. You can throw this. If they're keying in on bigger bait and you throw this, they will completely ignore it, like literally completely ignore it. And they do want a bigger bait. There's times where they will only eat a bigger bait. You'll get some smaller ones that'll eat that. But if you want to catch like good fish, like this little one too, this little swim bait. This is my favorite one, Suicide Shad. I've literally tried every single little plastic swim bait that every company makes, and they all freaking work, and you catch good fish on all of them. Especially if you have live scope, use little swim baits like this in the summer to your advantage. And then if they're not hitting that, actually upsize. There's times on Anna where they will not eat anything unless it's like 5 inches or bigger. Next bait here, this is like,
Good God.
you've got to throw this thing. This
is massive.
Yeah, I know. It's 2 ounces, and people like get on my boat and they're like, "What the hell are we doing?" kind of thing. And I'm like, "No, just trust me, kind of thing." Like, this bait is hands down. If I had to fish one bait from June through August, if I could only fish one bait on Ann, I'd just have this in my hand. Doesn't matter the conditions. Bluebird, give me bluebird skies. Give me like the worst topwater conditions you can think, and I want this. That's
and
what I
guys,
want.
really look at the teeth marks on that thing. And that thing has been through some hell.
Yeah, I don't even know if I can show these top ones good, but the top ones are pretty gnarly. And that's when you know, it's not even giving it hook rash. Like, you can't even see it right here up from the camera, but it's just beat up from things just crunching it. And let me tell you, this is a little secret. It's a little secret right here. So with this bait, everyone wants to get the cool lures, right? Strike King isn't cool anymore. But the reason why this is a Strike King lure. The reason this one is better is because of how freaking heavy it is. The 6-inch Catwalk is a same size as this great bait, but you lose so many more fish because it's lighter than this. So what happens with this being heavy, if you guys have fished topwater enough, a fish will come up from under it, and a light bait, they pop it up. This bait, it's too heavy for them to really pop it. They can't get it all the way. They're going to get hooked. That is key. The heavier the topwater and the bigger the topwater, the better.
I hope everyone wrote that down for their homework. You'll be tested on that. That's a huge thing, is the weight of the bait, because a lot of times they do nose it. They don't even open up their mouth when they hit it, and that makes perfect sense to me. Let's see, comment sections. Brian Henry, Tank, Alan York. How heavy is the jig head?
So this one right here is a 1/8. So all my jig heads, it's very rare I go past a 1/4 in the summer. If I really want to get deep, or I see a school deep, I'll go to like a 3/8. It's not really a 1/2 ounce. Usually when I go like that heavy, it's usually winter on Anna. But really, if I had to pick 3 jig heads to go through, it would just be a 1/8, 3/16, and a 1/4.
What is your whole setup with that? And then, guys, please just give it a thumbs up, like, and subscribe to the channel right now. It really helps us out in the algorithm.
Yeah, so I throw this little one on spinning gear usually, and it's a 7.3 medium. It's a moderate. I think it's a moderate action rod too. 7.3 medium. I usually throw 10 to 15 pound braid, and then have a 8 pound to 10 pound fluorocarbon leader. And then the bigger version, if I'm gonna throw like the 5-inch version of this bait, and I have a little bigger head, I'm throwing that usually on kind of like the I don't know, you can get away with like a 7 to like a 7.2 medium heavy is what I like. I want to be able to stick them pretty hard when they hit this jig, when they hit the bigger one. This light one on a spinning rod, they're pretty much hooked when they hit it, just from how small it is, and they grab the hook. You don't have to put much pressure on them to hook them. Whereas the bigger 5-inch bait, when I feel them, I want to crank them, I'm setting the hook on a jig basically.
And then also, I would just, if I could add to that, it is so important. If you guys go onto YouTube and watch old Aaron Martin things where he talks about this, you've got to really match up that hook with the line and the rod size. If you have that really, really finessey Okunichi hook and you put that on your flipping stick, it's not going to be
No,
flipping. You really
yeah.
got to match that stuff up.
Yeah, and then for line size, I usually downsize my line in the summer. So like for the bigger version of this, I'm throwing just straight 14-pound fluorocarbon right now is what I've been throwing with it, just straight fluorocarbon on the bait caster.
Do you ever go down with the smaller versions to like 8 or 10 or things like that? That's super duper light leader material.
On my spinning gear, always. Yeah.
Okay.
On my spinning gear, I've never have a heavier leader. 10 pounds is as heavy as I go, and that's usually a brush. I have like a rod specifically for fishing brush, a spinning rod, and I usually have 10-pound fluorocarbon on that. All my other rods, and I even started doing it recently for fun, is I put like 6 and 4-pound leader fluorocarbon leaders on my spinning gear, just to like, I don't know, I guess either piss myself off or fight a fish longer. I don't know. I just think I got bored one day and was like, I'm gonna put like a 4-pound leader on this and just see what it does, and ended up catching a really big fish. And I was like, there's no way I'm gonna land this thing. But yeah, go down to like 6. You're not gonna get, like, if you go from 6-pound line to 4-pound line on Anna, you're not gonna get more bites. Like there's nothing like that. Like if you go from 6 to 4-pound, you're just asking to break a fish off. So again, like, I just out there a lot. So I was like, I'm going to put 4-pound line on and just mess around.
I mean, but why do you think people do that? They go down to 4. Is there a thought process that is maybe correct about you do get a couple more bites, or is it just not statistically enough bites to make it worthwhile?
I think maybe like up north and then like really clear. And like when you're dealing with smallmouth, more visual feeders. But like, I'm telling you, like a bass, like between 8-pound and 4-pound line, like they're not seeing either of that on Anna. Like again, Anna is like, especially on the down section, is pretty clear, but it's not that clear. Like I learned that a lot too, like fishing in college and talking to like from people that like lived up in New York, and we're like, yeah, we're at like Smith Mountain or Clearwater Fishery, and they're like, this isn't clear. Like to them, that's dirty. So like, you know, I kind of took that and like applied that, like, oh, okay. So like you can get away with way bigger line and pretty much any lake in Virginia than you probably think. But yeah, I do think there's some natural, like the lighter line you have, the more natural movement the bait's going to have, like when you're talking about finesse stuff. So, you know, usually like 8 to 6-pound line is what I like to throw in the summer on like a drop shot. But 6-pound, again, like you got to have your drag right. Like you like get comfortable like fighting fish on 8-pound and 10-pound line before you start going to 6, because like one little mess up on 6-pound line is a break off, like no matter what you do.
Yeah, you get your drag set, guys. It's highly important. Also, I mean, I've been saying this for a while in these live streams. The BFS stuff is here to stay. Seeing iCast and doing live streams all week, everyone's going to BFS. So if you don't like doing like knots and stuff, get yourself a medium light bait casting setup and just spool it up with 8, so you don't have to deal with like winding and stuff. So that can work too. We have a bunch of comments that came in here. We got Jake Tolley. Tyler is the real deal. Keep it up, homie.
Oh yeah, I went out with Jake. That was probably a month or so. Thanks, Jake.
Dude, you're popular. We got Alan York again. This is straight to the point. Flutter spoon ?
Dude, I can't give away all the secrets, man. He's out here giving away my secrets. Yeah, they work. They're good on Anna.
I don't know.
No, I don't care. Ask flutter spoons. Yeah, I throw the 6 Sense Divine flutter spoon is a good way to get big bites on Anna.
Alan, are you watching? Are you watching all the stuff that's happening on Occoquan Reservoir with all those guys? Because I know McCluskey likes to throw flutter spoons. I don't know. That's a big piece of metal where
it's
the hookup percentage has got to suck.
Oh yeah, yeah. I lost probably like an 8-pounder on a boathouse dock on Main Lake this past week, because like that thing just like, I literally heard the fish and I kind of like saw it. It had the flutter spoon in its mouth, came up and jumped under the dock, and the top of the flutter spoon hit the top of the dock and just popped out of its mouth. And it was like, yeah, it was wild. It's a fun bite, especially in the summer. It's a good bait.
It's a fun bite, and this is when I talk to my circle of friends about it. It's just like, okay, but if you can hook them on it, but you can hook them on something else, like
use something else.
Use something else.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks badass when you see McCluskey hold up a nice one, but it's like that's probably one of maybe 10 bites he had, but he was 1 for 10, because those things just don't have a great hookup ratio. They really
They do, like, and people think that with this, with like a top water, because it's heavy, but a flutter spoon is so much different because it's one treble hook with a bunch of free swinging metal. It knocks out all the time. I don't know how many fish I've lost on it, but like the bite, some of the bites you get on those things are like a jig bite on steroids, so it is pretty fun.
What is? I don't think we even talked about that. Your topwater setup. Are you throwing braid or are you a mono guy?
Oh, I'm all braid. I'm all braid. I really don't even like. There's some baits like we're throwing braid like sucks. Like certain top waters, but like on this big thing, like you gotta throw braid. Like I'm throwing 30 pound braid on this. 30 to 40 pound braid when I'm walking that bait. I like the control on it. A big bait like that doesn't walk as fluidly as a smaller topwater walking bait would. So the braid, like a heavier braid, gives it like a real snap and just a lot more control with it. And another thing too on topwater, this is like the biggest mistake. The best way to lose a fish on a topwater bait like this is to let the fish fight. If you catch a big fish on this, winch that thing in. Like just winch it, like until your wrist feels like it's gonna break. Don't like sit there and let it pull drag and thumb spool it and all that. If you get hit on a big topwater bait like that, like just freaking grind it in and like just grind that fish in, and you'll catch a lot more that way.
Do you change the hook out at all? Like, do you do round bends or you go to triple grips?
No, so I use just like the typical round bends, but I do change my hooks out pretty frequently, especially with guiding now on baits like this. Luckily, these Strike King baits come with good hooks. Surprisingly, I didn't like. I feel like that was one of the knocks that I always used to hear is they didn't come, but that bait comes with really good hooks.
Ever since a college tournament, I now am so morbidly paranoid about that. I just change out all my hooks to certain brands that I like because I just get paranoid, especially if you're dealing like topwater. I agree. It's like if you're dealing with crankbaits guys and you're baiting into rocks and stuff, always feel those things just in case because they will wear down.
Yeah.
Hard lessons learned.
Yeah, topwater hooks will stay better longer, but like that big bait, like you can only catch so many like 3 to 6 pounders on this thing before the hooks get dull just on a fish's mouth.
Do you do any type of night fishing or have ever thought about that?
Yeah, I offer it. If people want to go, they have to go night fishing, but there's like requirements for that. One, you do have to have like experience fishing. I'm not comfortable taking somebody who's not comfortable fishing. And that's pretty much my only requirement. And again, it's not a bad knock, but like when it's night, I can't have someone that I have to worry about casting swinging hooks around. For other people on the boat, for myself, for them, it's just a safety thing. So like, for that, it's a little bit of a vetting thing, but yeah, I mean, there's good fishing on Anna at night for sure. And I have done it a few times, and yeah, you catch a lot of good ones typically when you do.
Because I've always been curious about that with lakes that size, if they ever do completely switch off. I've heard about that when I used to vacation with the family when I was a kid down to Claytor Lake, and they would say Claytor Lake would just switch off to like a nighttime pure feeding thing.
Yeah. No, I think that's pretty like you always hear that too about like Smith Mountain, and they do Tuesday nighters and stuff out here that I've wanted to do. I fish the Sunday series still when I can, but like a Tuesday nighter, like the past couple of weeks, I've been like, it's like 4 to 5 days on the water, and then on like Tuesday, I'm like, I couldn't even keep my eyes open kind of thing.
Do you fish? I mean, like, when was the last tournament you fished? Was it that Memorial Day thing?
Was that the last? No, I fished some Sunday series tournaments. I fished 1 or 2 since that one. There hasn't been any TBF. We were supposed to fish one in the Potomac. We had something come up, so we couldn't. But I fished like a Father's Day tournament on Lake Anna with my dad, and we did good. We cashed a check kind of deal, nothing crazy. And I fished like another Sunday one, but no, since I've been guiding now and have gotten busier, I just haven't had as much time as I would like. But in the spring I'll always make time, starting probably in like the winter through May and stuff. I'll definitely fish more tournaments, and there's like a fall classic on Anna, so I'll fish that. And I'd like to get down to Smith Mountain Lake to fish. I think in October there's a tournament that I want to try to go fish.
Well, what are your plans for next year when it comes to tournament fishing?
I want to do more than just the TBF stuff. I think I'm going to take 1 year to do this. I'm a few years out from trying to do the opens thing. I want to do it. You know, I know it's tough. Like it's going to be a grind, and that's like years from now. But that's like the ultimate goal, is to go fish the opens. I'll probably start getting into more BFLs and stuff like that. The thing that was holding me back is for a while it's been my boat, because I run an 18.5 foot boat. My boat tops out at 45 with just me. That's been the thing holding me back, but I don't really think it's an excuse. Like I kind of proved to myself this year, it doesn't matter to me if you put me in a $70,000 Phoenix or put me in a John boat. I don't care. I'm going to go out and try just as hard and still be able to fish it. So, you know, by the time I got to the opens, it'll be in a different boat for sure. But you know, I would like to kind of expand on fishing some more BFLs and fishing some more stuff. But yeah, once this year, the TBF and just getting into it and the guiding thing, it's like, I didn't even have time. Like there was summer tournaments I wanted to fish, but I was like, I just can't with getting the business started right now.
No, 100%. And that's a good strategy to do the BFLs next year and to kind of grow. Don't go from TBF to just the opens. Probably.
Yeah, it's like a terrible idea. Like, and to me, it doesn't even like it doesn't matter. Like, I don't like. I've learned to put aside my ego with fishing. Like, fishing is like such an ego sport. Like, and with guiding, you cannot have an ego. Like, you gotta check that stuff real quick, because you can't have an ego. You can't be like, you know what I mean? So like for me, it's like if I'm going to the opens, like I'm just like when it eventually happens and stuff, like I'm not like, I don't think I'm the best in the world. I don't even think I'm the best bass fisherman on Lake Anna. And I'll tell you, like I'm not. There's guys that have done it a lot longer for me, and I have some like mentors that have done it a lot longer, and you just got to kind of check that stuff. So, you know, for me, it's like fun. It's just all it is now. It's all just about having fun.
It's just about being the best guy that day, honestly.
Yeah.
It's a mindset you have to have.
Yeah.
Let's see, where is this question? I had somebody that messaged me a Facebook question. Shane Kelly. It was, okay. I love watching your show. A lot of good information. Just a thought for a show bringing someone on to talk about fish care, and live well tips for keeping fish alive during these hot summer months. Really love the show. Keep up the great work. So I thought, you're out there every day when it's 100 degrees.
Yeah.
How the hell would you keep fish alive?
Yeah. So right now, I don't let, like, sometimes we'll catch nice ones and people like in July and stuff, and they want to like put it in a live well and like, you know, have like a picture with a couple, but I tell them I really prefer not to do that, just for the fish health. Like, I want you to catch it, take a picture, and put it back in. Fish care is like really, really important to me. I don't keep fish in the live well, especially this time of year. If I ever have a fish with two fish or something, it's earlier in the year, and I probably caught them very, very quick within one another. And this time of year with clients, like I know they really want to, but sometimes they catch a good one, like, oh, I get the picture with two fish. But in July and August, I am like very, very much against that. But yeah, the best thing is have ice, have some sort of whatever that blue crap is. Like, the G Juice is one of them, but there's like this other one too that Bass Pro sells, and it's like, it looks like it, I don't know, it looks like some chemical, but yeah, it definitely has kept fish alive. But always have ice, keep your live well, keep your aerator like running just constantly. That's what I do. And then I always have ice and cycle ice in there in these months, especially in a tournament situation. And then learn how to fizz a fish too, if you don't know how to do that. I'm not going to be the best person to explain it, but I know how to do it if I need to. But you can look that up, because if you catch a fish real deep and stuff with the pressure, it can mess with them. So learn how to do that. But always have ice if you're going to keep fish. You know, I don't let anyone harvest largemouth. If we catch like a striper during a time of year where you can keep it and eat it, like by all means, sure. But like bass, like no harvesting, no keeping them in the live well in July and August, and always have ice.
Yeah, I mean that's and guys, I'll try to get somebody on, a biologist, honestly, with all the connections I got now.
Yeah, they'll be better than me.
Yeah, but you're out there every day, and
yeah,
when I tell like the biologists and stuff, is like guides are out there just as much as biologists a lot of times, if not more days. So
yeah, there's probably so many little things that I could probably like, that if they wanted to know little things just from being out there so much, that I've seen, just like you said, being out there every single day.
Yeah, and then if you really want fish care, guys, just buy that $200,000 Icon boat that has a coolant system. So
Yeah, there you go.
dude, that thing is freaking. I saw the thing at ICAST. I'm like, who in the hell could afford besides baby Bezos? I mean, it's
Yeah.
cool, but damn, that's expensive.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. It is crazy. That's the last thing we need is for bass boats to get more expensive.
Well, I mean, if you had your ability, money, no problem. What would you get if you could build a bear for your boat?
If I could just go out like right now, I just want a 21-foot Express. I want aluminum. Yeah, all aluminum. I'll never fish fiberglass. You'll always see me in aluminum.
Why?
I don't know. I just like it. I've done it my whole life and I don't want to stop. I don't want to be in a fiberglass rig. It's too heavy.
You know what? I'm gonna make sure we got to get you a brand for something like that. I guess the Tin Man's already gone. Oh, speaking of brand, let me see. I have your merch up. If that's something you want to talk about.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So for everyone listening, we just had a graphic tee. We're gonna do some apparel. And this first shirt right now, if you buy this first shirt, you get 20% off a full or half day guide trip with the purchase if you book it between August 1 and October 31st. This is a pretty sweet deal. Like this is a huge discount, like a 20% off for a full day guide trip. Like you're saving a lot of money, like a lot of money. So if you're thinking about going out, buy the shirt as insurance, because if you decide you want to, you're getting 20% off. A full day guide trip, that's a lot. A half day guide trip, you're getting basically a shirt, a guide trip, and you're getting a few extra bucks off as well with the price of a half day guide trip. But I appreciate it. This really supports the company. I came up with the design myself before I left my other job and started doing this. I did content marketing, graphic design, and web design. So I'm trying to kind of incorporate that into this business a little bit. And this is going to be the first graphic tee and hoodie of many to come in the next few months.
I like that. It looks like the ISR run is just hitting him. I like how you incorporate the forward-facing sonar with that. That's really cool.
Yeah, it was like I was like, I want to make like a UFO beam hitting, like a forward-facing sonar hitting a bass, and like say beam me up. I wanted to beam me up Scotty, but apparently that was a trademark thing. Apparently, CBS and Nicki Minaj of all people trademarked "Beam Me Up, Scotty," so I couldn't do it.
You're kidding.
Yeah, I was like, what? I was like, what? I understood CBS, but the other one, I was like, all right, whatever. So "Beam Me Up" it is.
Oh boy, here we go. Here's a good comment. I don't know who. Joe McGraw. What's the deal with the blue-green algae in the lake?
Oh yeah, I guess I don't even know what that has to happen when it does happen up the splits. But blue-green algae is on every single lake. It's only really a problem when it starts blooming. Like even Smith Mountain has some blue-green algae that'll even make the water look blue-green. But to be honest, I'm probably not the right person to give a super detailed answer. I just know it has to do with stagnant water and heat and pretty much the algae going unchecked.
What part of the lake is it in?
So to me, I've always assumed, some people have told me it's near some of the dikes, and other people have told me it's like way up the splits and stuff. So you know what? Just if you ever see a warning for it, just don't get in the lake.
So
stay home that day. Fishermen will go out.
yeah, and based on my limited research, reading some scientific journals actually on this, because it has to do sometimes with subaquatic vegetation. When you have stagnant water and you don't have the ecosystem in balance, it'll actually propagate more of that blue-green algae bloom. So examples like Okeechobee, where they do have massive spraying. If you have a massive die-off of vegetation or you don't have vegetation, that'll create issues where the blue-green algae is even worse. And so there have been times in the past when Lake Anna had no grass in it that you had these massive, massive blooms. And that's because at that point, you basically just have a swimming pool. And if you've ever seen a swimming pool before where you have stagnant water, you get those algae blooms. And when you have living plant matter and you have a little bit of current flow, which creates turbidity, that will help die that down. But a lot of our lakes don't have that turbidity, and just turbidity is just moving water. And so if you have like a TVA system where you do have current flow, it does cut down on that. But the caveat is if you have a massive die-off in vegetation or something like that, which it's an issue. It really is trying to find the balance with that. And then I really want to know what the nuclear power plant has to do with it when you have that heat, that hot water. Dude, like how hot is the hot side of Lake Anna right now? It's got to be like 10, 20 degrees warmer.
I'll find out on Thursday. Actually, I'm doing a guide trip on the private side on Thursday, so I'll be able to know exactly how hot it is then.
Man's got some contacts. I don't know how you got over there. That's nice.
Yeah, like I mean, honestly, a lot of it is you go out with people and they're like, "Oh, we're gonna be on the private side, and you want to come guide over there?" So sure, so that sort of thing.
If is Lake Anna big enough to ever hold a BFL, or would it only be big enough if the dikes are removed? Because I was at High Rock.
How big is like a typical, like I've fished them in the past, but like on the Potomac, but it wasn't even that many people, and this was like forever ago.
You can get sometimes 150, 200 boats, but
yeah, that would be crazy.
High Rock is only 3,000 acres bigger than Lake Anna.
Yeah, High Rock is pretty small. I've won a tournament out there, actually.
I forgot that. Really?
Yeah, I won a tournament on High Rock.
I hate that place.
I didn't like it either. It was 17 degrees the day I won it.
Why were you? What's the story there? I need some context.
I was like, I want to go fish somewhere different, and I was like, guess we're going to North Carolina. And I think like it wasn't much weight to win it. It was like a terrible day. Like it was like blowing 30, 17 degrees. It was like March. It was some like wicked cold front. I think it took like, I couldn't even tell you. I was 18 when I won it, and it did not take much weight. And I was fishing a bunch of local guys, and they're like, we have never like seen this weather down here in March, and like none of them, like I don't even know what I was doing. Like honestly, I couldn't even tell you. Like I wasn't like how I won it and all that stuff. Like I just went fishing kind of thing and did what I would do back home if it was really cold.
Dude, that's freaking awesome though. Yeah, that's so cool. Let's see. And I'm getting this up for you guys because I know I'm going to be hitting this in the comment section. High Rock Lake size. I think it's about 10,000 acres, 13,000 acres, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it is pretty small. It reminds me of it's got to be close to the size of Lake Anna.
So it's almost 15,000 acres for that place. And then Lake Anna.
The problem with doing that on Lake Anna is it could be done, but you would have a lot of people come in with like 1 to 2 fish.
That can't be right. 13,000 acres? Wow, Lake Anna is 13,000 acres. Oh, I wonder if that's combined. Public side is roughly 9,000 acres, while the private side is 4,000 acres. So yeah,
that sounds right.
If you got rid of the dike, then it might be squeaking in there, but you might be able to have a tournament there.
Interesting. Oh yeah. I think if you did that, it would open up. Like that lake would fish even like it fishes big now as far as like where the size are. There's fish everywhere on Anna. There really is. But if you open that up too, like it would be a great tournament lake because the private side is there's a lot of like little pot, like how on Kerr where like it just looks crazy and like you could have 500 boats but not even see 2 other boats the other day.
Yeah.
If you opened that part up on Anna, not saying you put 500 boats, but it would have that similar effect if you opened that part up.
Especially if you only open up Dike 3, and then if you are launching out of sturgeon, you really have to make a decision where you're going to go.
Yeah.
You have to go down, up, and around, which would really spread people out. And it's interesting because I think that the power company has to either update the reactors or like decommission them in 2030. So up on it to where they might combine both sides of the lake. Who knows?
Yeah, it would be interesting too to see how that affects the lake too, because the private side is full of small fish, and you might run into a population problem if you do that. I don't know exactly how that would work, but the private side is like chock full of like 1-pounders, like just everywhere.
Oh, I believe that the warm side didn't also get the F1s either.
Oh, okay, yeah. You catch big ones on the warm side here and there, but like the times I've been out there, like it doesn't even matter what you throw, and you'll catch a 1-pounder like anywhere. They're everywhere.
I mean, that is nice for you though that you have that option, because I bet there's a lot of clients that would want to get out with you in the wintertime on the warm side when it's 70-degree water temperature.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that, and then get out on there and it'll be really active, or you go out on the cold side and catch like a bunch of 6-pounders, bunch of fat 6-pounders that have their winter build.
Yes. Yep. Tyler, again, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. Guys, a link in the episode description, everything we talked about, including his merch store. For everyone that's listening, since this is a live stream, I'm going to do something special for you. I'm going to leave this thing unlisted so you can listen to it again. Otherwise, this is the first episode to upload in August, so you're going to have to catch it then. But then everything is going to be linked. Please support him with his merchandise. Please help support Tyler as he grows really a fantastic guide service that he's built from the ground up. Like and subscribe to the channel, guys, and we'll see you next time. And 3, 2,